Hello and good evening. Welcome from Tassis, Portugal. My name is Amy Gruber and I'm honored to serve as Tassis Portugal's Director of Enrollment Management and Marketing. And tonight I'm delighted to kick off our Coffee with Keith Zoom webinar series. Keith, if you don't know, is Keith Chiquen, Headmaster of Tassis, Portugal. And during this time of social isolation, we wanted to connect with all of you, our founding families, as well as those of you who are just exploring our school to decide whether or not it's the right fit for your family. Tonight, in our first part in this series, Keith will answer questions that we receive each and every day from families, teachers, and neighbors in the community. Next week, he will introduce one of the academic leadership team members, Erica Harrow, who will join us from Stevenson School in Pebble Beach, California, where she's worked for over a decade now. And Erica and her family moved to Portugal, and she will become Tassis Portugal's Director of Learning and Assessment. At the end of the Zoom meeting, Keith will answer additional questions. So if you would like to pose a question, please do so. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see the opportunity to do that with a Q&A icon right in between participants and polling. Don't worry, your questions are anonymous. No one else will see them. So without further ado, I will send you over to Keith Chiquen. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Keith. By the way, not my name. I didn't create that name. I would have gone with Beer with Bob or Wine with Walter. Anyway, in case you haven't figured it out, I'm Keith. This is Coffee, or not. You'll never know. I am the headmaster of the newest Tassis campus, Tassis, Portugal, and I'm very proud to be here, and thank you for joining us this evening. We decided to do this series because, as all of us recognize, the planet is in a desperate state. I know many of you have been personally affected in terms of your businesses, loved ones. Many of you are taking care of family members, children. Many of you have become teachers of your own children over the past few weeks. That's a lot of fun, isn't it? And we just thought, because you couldn't join us in person, we'd take an opportunity to meet with you every once a week for the next few weeks and help to maybe assuage some of your anxiety around what's going on in the world and certainly what's going on with the Tassis School. Before I get into the question section, which I know you're all very curious about, I want to say a few words about our founder, Mrs. Fleming. Mrs. Fleming, or MCF, was a remarkable woman. She was an American who traveled to Switzerland and in 1955 found a location. It was a villa in Lugano, Switzerland, and said, I must open a school here. The next year she did exactly that. She came with her 3 children. She opened a school that started with, I believe, 12 students, 3 of whom were her own, and her own children. And she convinced a Swiss bank to loan her $1 million to start this school. She was the sort of woman who was so captivating. If you were in a room with her, first of all, she was the center of attention. And if she ever took a moment to speak with you, you became the center of her attention. And she had a great deal of charisma, but more importantly, she had a great deal of courage to do what she did in a time when women just didn't do that sort of thing. They certainly didn't travel to Europe on their own. They certainly didn't start schools. So whenever we feel that we've reached a challenge that might be insurmountable, we think about Mrs. Fleming and about what she would have done and how she would have handled it in a way that would have been without batting an eyelash probably, and moved on to the next challenge. So she would be very proud that we're here in Portugal. She had a recipe for schools, and our site here in Portugal certainly satisfies that recipe. It's about beauty, it's about culture, and it's about care. It's about finding the right people to take care of the children who deserve an education. And she never thought she was starting an international school. She said she was developing international young people. And that's what we're going to do here in Portugal. So in her honor, we're very proud to be here. By the way, I thought I would look better than this for my small screen debut, but of course my hair and makeup team didn't show up for work again today. I want to welcome some people. First of all, all of the families who joined us this evening. Secondly, our faculty and staff who will be joining us in the next 4 or 5 months. I want to welcome them. Any of you who are taking part in this conference tonight, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work you're doing already for TASIS Portugal from your own homes. And lastly, I want to thank my family and my children who are probably not watching tonight. All right, here we go into some questions. Here's the number one burning question that we've been asked at least a million times. The question is, being new to Portugal, are you aware that construction is perennially late? And have you heard about the coronavirus? And I would say no and yes to those questions. No, seriously, we have hired a construction company that has a great deal of experience building large-scale buildings and being on budget and on time. And I can tell you today, I'm actually at the school campus. We have a large crew working. Our construction schedule is still on schedule for August. We are on budget, and we expect that we will be opening in September. Well, we guarantee we will be opening in September. That we guarantee. I'll come back to that in a moment. But unless there are supply and labor shortages, which we quite honestly expect there will be at some point in the next 4 months, unless that is the case, we will be opening our beautiful school here in what was the Ballura Shopping Center, which will now be TASIS Portugal. However, we're not naive. This is not our first rodeo. We expect that there will be delays, and certainly could be delays, and we have a plan B. So if you're worried that this campus won't be ready, you don't have to worry. We have a very solid plan B. We have another facility that we will move into in September if need be. It might be for a few days, it might be for a few weeks, it could be for a few months. But we can't predict that. What we're predicting now is that we will be in our new campus. If that doesn't come to pass for whatever reason, we have a wonderful backup site that I think you will all approve of, both as students, parents, and as faculty. The other thing I wanted to mention about our facility is, if you've driven by recently, you'll notice that the facade, the exterior of the campus hasn't seemed to change a bunch. And you're right. We directed our construction company to work from the inside out. The most important thing isn't how the building looks on the outside in September. What's important is how it looks and how functional it is on the inside in September. And so they've been busily working, creating our early learning center, creating our classrooms, our laboratories, our common areas, and it is coming along nicely. We will expect, or you will expect, to see exterior work beginning, if not next week, the week after. Our permitting allows us to begin next week, and so that is the plan, but if delayed, it'll be the week after. So I want to just make sure that everybody can take a deep breath and say, our children will be at TASIS Portugal this coming September. The next question we get is, how many students will you open with? And that's yet to be established entirely, but I can tell you that demand and enrollment has been robust. We want to open with a reasonable number, but we don't want to be too big too early. We want to do a really phenomenal job and set this school year off, and in fact, this school off in the right way. So we will probably have around 150 students. It could be more than that. It probably won't be less. We're expecting to have one class at each level, pre-K, K, and grades 1 through 6. Our class maximums are 22, and pre-K through grade 3, we have 2 teachers in every classroom. So you can do the math on those 8 classes, and we'll be somewhere in that range. It'll be a very comfortable number, and our space will accommodate that number very comfortably. The next question was, do you promise to open your middle school in 2021 so I will never have to educate my children at home again? And yes, we can assure you that you won't have to be teachers of your own children for long. We expect to have our middle school open. We guarantee our middle school will open in 2021. So students will migrate from grade 6 into 7. We'll be accepting students into both grade 7 and 8. And then transitioning from there, like we've said all along. And the next important question is our teachers. Oh, I'm just getting a note from my handler that I should look at the camera and smile. So I will do my best to read from my notes and look at the camera. I want to tell you about our teachers. First of all, we've had 492 applicant teachers to work at TASIS Portugal next year. Obviously, we're not hiring all of them, but we are hiring the best of them. We have approximately 25 teachers hired, and we have only a few more that we will be hiring over the coming weeks, and we'll be fully set up for the fall term. And our teachers are an exceptional, outstanding group, both of teachers, professionals, and human beings. We have found people that are very experienced, not too experienced, very knowledgeable, very committed to the cause, and importantly, really committed to the education of your children and the young people in our school. These are the sort of people who put the children's needs before the needs of anything else, including their own. And I feel so blessed to be able to start a school with such a talented group of people. And I guarantee you, you're going to be impressed with their quality and their commitment and the care they take in educating your children. So the other thing I want to say about our teachers, and this was part of the interview process, all of our teachers are collaborators. They're professional collaborators. They know they're good teachers and they want to become better teachers. And to do that, they collaborate with one another, applying best practices and really learning every day from their peers and from themselves. And that's an important part of our professional development, and this is an important part of our professional learning community at TASIS Portugal. Our teachers come from a variety of countries. I would say probably the majority are coming from outside of Portugal, although we have a lot of talented teachers right here in Portugal who will be joining us as well. Countries such as the US, Canada, England, South Africa, Wales. We have teachers coming from Malaysia, Thailand, China, Spain, Egypt, Kazakhstan. Many of them are American or Canadian nationals. Some of them are Portuguese nationals who've been teaching abroad, but it's an amazing cross-section and diverse group, all of whom are bringing international school experience to TASIS Portugal. Some of them are featured in our bios, which are on our website, and we're adding more bios every day, well, every week. It doesn't represent the full faculty because we're being respectful that some of our teachers are at other schools, in the greater Lisbon area, and they want to remain loyal to their own schools and confidential for the time being. But you'll see them later in the spring, and of course you'll meet them before long. So that's our teachers. Next question. I get this one frequently. Why the violin? And you can see over my shoulder, I think, one of the violins that our kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, and 3 students will be playing, learning to play and then playing. And here's one. They're beautiful instruments. They're sourced, I believe, from Portugal. And what I want to say about the violin program is twofold. One, we picked the violin program very specifically. In fact, one of our board members, who was the head of school at a number of top schools in the United States, stumbled on some research more than a decade ago. And the research was clear that students who study music, especially in the lower years, have higher academic outcomes in the upper years. The research then corrected for things like income, ethnicity, and took a look at which musical instruments or which forms of music had the greatest effect on the development of students' brains. And it's not just on achievement, this is on the development of the young people's ability to learn. Choir had lesser impact. Piano had a great deal of impact, although it's challenging to have a piano program because of size constraints, obviously. And violin had the greatest impact. And so we visited a school that our board chair helped to found, and I was there about a month ago, and their violin program is exceptional. The music program is exceptional. And they have implemented this program that is an entire class of students, starting at age 5, learning to play the violin, but they're learning more than to play the violin. They're learning about rhythm. They have to sing many of the parts because the audiation part of playing an instrument like the violin is so important. It's a very tonal instrument. You have to have a very refined ear. Our students will develop that over the course of their time with their music teacher. And so it's more than just a violin program. In fact, it's not a violin program at all, really. We're not trying to produce concert-level violinists. We're trying to produce outstanding musicians who have a really great ear for music. And the violin is the best instrument for that. It's also an instrument that requires dexterity. It involves posture. But ultimately, it's also an instrument that if you can master at age 5, 6, 7, 8, you will have confidence and the resilience to conquer and master any musical instrument. In fact, to do many other things in your academic career that aren't even connected to music. That's why we chose the violin, and we're building on a program that has been highly successful, so we know it will work. Okay, so I think I've covered the questions that I typically get. And now Amy is going to throw some other questions at me for the last 15 minutes to see if I can answer them.
Yes, Hi there, everyone, and thank you for the questions that you've been submitting while Keith has been speaking. One of the questions that came in, Keith, was regarding outdoor space. As you know, Portugal is a country where families celebrate the outdoors, and they very much want to know about the outdoor space for the school.
All right, well, I'll say that our academic program involves not just classroom work. It involves all of the fine arts, which all TASIS schools have a penchant for and have paid great deal of attention to. These are important aspects, but physical activity is also an important aspect of the school. We believe, and the research supports, that daily physical activity is good for the development of children's brains and health. And therefore, we have built that into our program, into the academic program, and into the after-school program. So students will have at least one block of physical activity every day, and in many cases, depending on the activity they select in the after-school program, multiple blocks per day. But we needed a space for that, and as you know, we've taken over a shopping center that doesn't have a great deal of outdoor space. We have some spaces. We have an indoor-outdoor gymnasium that we're currently developing. We have an outdoor space that is adjacent to the building on the property that we are going to create a playground and an artificial turf playing field on. But most importantly, we have recently secured the piece of property that is adjacent to the building, right across from the cinema. How cool is that to have a cinema in your school? But the piece of land will be turned into a playing field in the coming months. And it's a very, very large space. I think it's 5,000 square meters. So we're talking about a huge outdoor recreational space and numerous spaces around the campus that are outdoor that we will convert to playing spaces of many sorts. As well, we have developed an indoor playing space for days when we can't go outside, and that will house things like our dance, yoga, some small games for young people, tumbling and gymnastics, but also a climbing wall, which we're currently having built. So we'll have lots of spaces for young people to get exercise, and those spaces will grow as the school grows.
Thank you, Keith. We had one question about Plan B and whether or not you are able to reveal the location of Plan B at this time.
Oh, it's such a secret that if I told you, I'd have to kill you. So Plan B, we are in the process of securing. We have an agreement that is being formulated. We will be able to release some more information in a couple of weeks. To be clear, we're hoping not to need a Plan B, but if we do, yeah, I can tell you it's a beautiful site. It's bigger, actually, than our school, and it will serve all of our needs. And it is about, well, there's less than 5-minute drive from the school. So it will be, and it also has outdoor space. It has everything that we need. It will satisfy, I think, all of your needs. So I will give more detail on that once we have a signed agreement, which should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe even by next week I can share more detail, but thank you for the question.
We have a real softball question for you that I know you're going to love answering. When I hear direct instruction, I think of kids sitting on their chairs, listening only to their teachers. Is this how preschool classes will be held? Can you expand on this topic?
Absolutely, and I'm not sure I've used the term direct instruction explicitly. We do have a content-rich curriculum, and I've talked a lot about that. I'd be happy to talk about it again. However, our curriculum is the body of knowledge that we want young people and all educated people to have. And we really have a great deal of confidence in our curriculum. It is time-tested, it is research-supported, and it is quite expansive and rigorous. At the same time, the pedagogy, the way that that curriculum is taught, is entirely up to our teachers. And our teachers are masters of their pedagogy. They know what works and what doesn't work. They know that having students sitting in rows of 5 and listening intently for 40 minutes is exactly not the way to impart knowledge and to help young people learn and to motivate them. So what we also know, however, is, and this is very clear in the research, the teacher makes an enormous difference in the educational achievement and outcomes of young people. I think many of you who are at home right now and working with your children understand how much of a difference a teacher makes. And we've hired an exceptional group of professionals who have the experience of knowing how to motivate, how to keep energized, how to have students working in groups, how to differentiate their instruction such that students who need more challenge get it, students who need more support receive it within the classroom lesson, within their own, the walls of their own classroom. So direct instruction means teachers giving a lot of guidance, a lot of support, a lot of direction. They're crystal clear about the outcomes they're expecting. They're crystal clear around how they will assess those outcomes. But it's not standing and talking all the time. There is a place for that, by the way. It's called the Socratic method. A teacher who is very skilled uses the methodology that goes back to Plato and Socrates, where continually asking questions of young people and getting them to reflect and collate their knowledge and experience and then discuss individually and then in groups. That's all part of the process of teaching, of good teaching. There is a progressive or romantic movement to teachers should talk infrequently, if at all. Teachers should not teach, but simply guide. Move away from the sage on the stage. Listen, our teachers have a large body of knowledge and they have a lot of experience in delivering it. We want them to be doing that. We don't want students to be wandering off in their own endeavors, maybe for days or weeks, not knowing where they're going, not getting feedback, not getting the direction that they need, not having exemplars where students say, oh, that's what excellent work looks like. I understand that. So I could go on for a long time, and you'll have these conversations with your own children's teachers, but it does not involve sitting in rows of 5 individually and listening for 40 minutes. In fact, we don't even have individual seats. All of our classrooms have tables because we believe that dialogue, that students working with their peers is very useful. We have groups of 2, groups of 4, we'll have large group sessions, but there is a place for individual learning, students working in a reflective way, in a quiet way. So our classrooms on any given day could look like absolute chaos or absolute silence. It depends on the methodology that teacher is employing to make sure learning is happening. And I'll just talk about our professional development because every one of the teachers that I've hired, one of the number one things they asked was, what are our opportunities for professional development? How do we become the best teachers? We're already very good, we know that. How do we become better at what we do? And part of that is working with their peers and collaborating. And I've talked a bit about that, but it's also about reflecting on the assessments that they use with children. So there are many forms of assessment. The most important one is formative assessment. We look at the learning of the day. We assess whether students have absorbed the information, the knowledge, and the skill that they were intended to. And if not, the teachers take that assessment and they go back and they reteach it. or they teach it in a different way. They make sure that everybody in that class reaches a level of mastery. And that is a very important aspect of how we assess our students and what our expectations are of students. And both formative assessment and high expectations of students, by the way, have a great deal of research supporting high achievement in a school and high achievement in individual students. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Keith. We have a question here related to the TASIS Foundation Scholarship Program. And this is a couple of questions here, both of which are very important, especially in these difficult times for families, as the coronavirus not only damages our society in terms of health, but also economically. So the first part of this question is, does the scholarship cover partial support for families and or full scholarships? The second part is asking whether or not there is still an opportunity for families to apply for scholarships at this point in time.
Well, our Director of Enrollment Management, Financial Aid, who's moderating this session, could probably do a better job than I can.
Oh, I'm all for it if you'd like me to take this one.
Happy for you to do that. That would be great.
Thank you. We are very fortunate to have the TASIS Foundation Scholarship Program, and we do evaluate the we do evaluate the circumstances of every family. They're professionally evaluated by an outside accounting firm, and we have provided awards that are smaller in size, really just bridging the gap for some families who've maybe been accustomed to paying tuition, but not at this level. Some awards are a bit larger. It takes into account the individual circumstances of the family. Right now, we are anticipating having more ability to support families. So if yours is one who would be interested in applying for a scholarship, please do so. You can find information about that on our website under the admissions page, but also feel free to contact any of us in the admissions office, and we would be happy to assist you with that process.
Great answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have a question here. When will families be able to come and see the facilities inside? And also a nice compliment. Glad to hear that Plan B is ready if needed.
Well, we expect that families are currently in their homes and going to stay there for safety reasons. So once we have the curfew lifted, once people are able to move about freely, we'll be back in the office and we'll be happy to have tours. We've done some tours with families a few weeks ago, and we'd be delighted to do that. We do have on our website a virtual tour. It's just photos right now, but in the next few days we'll be posting some video. It is not exactly what the school is going to look like, but it is the design features from our architect. It will be very much like what the school is going to appear on the inside as. So please visit our website, have a look at all the information that is there. There's information on our scholarship program. There's the headmaster's blog, which probably is not very interesting to most people, but you might find a tidbit in there that is of interest to you. And certainly the photographs of our campus and the photographs of the interior and the video will be up shortly. And of course, check out our faculty profiles and bios. Those are really interesting.
Thank you. And I would just like to add that prior to us having to close the office to visitors and families, we were giving tours, basically taking people to look at the construction site, the school store. So there is more to see right now than just the admissions office. Pardon me. So once things are ready again, we do hope to host people and show you as much as we can, but the website will be a great place for that.
I'll just say one more thing. Sorry to interrupt you. One more thing about the construction. Obviously, we started on the inside. We're going to be moving to the outside shortly, and so you're going to see more activity. However, this is just phase one. This is pre-K through grade 6. As soon as this is built out by August, or at the latest September, we will then commence building phase 2, which will be our middle school, grades 7, 8. Eventually, middle school will probably be grades 6 through 8. But that large section of the interior center of the shopping center is going to be spectacular. It'll be house our dining hall, our middle school classrooms, administrative offices, and that will commence, as I said, as soon as the first phase is done. So we're going to be under construction. The places will be sealed off. We'll ensure safety, but we're asking families to be patient and to work and grow with us as this magnificent campus unfolds.
And there is the section on our website called Our Campus in the Making, where we are posting, 3D renderings and things like that. This is my favorite question because it comes from a student who's watching us tonight. So thank you so much. And the student would like to know if we will have hot lunches, and also if we could elaborate on after-school activities.
The lunch program will be served in the first year in a smaller dining room, and in our second year in a much larger dining room, which will be in the center of the building. We have a company that has outstanding food, and we recognize that food quality is very important to both parents and students, and in fact to our faculty and staff who will be eating with you. We have an outstanding company who will be serving hot meals for lunch, as well as snacks twice a day. In the first period, whether in case we're not starting the school here in September, in case we're delayed by a week or more, they'll be delivered to our alternate site. But as soon as we're in this campus, and God willing, that will be in September, by September 7th, we'll have our own kitchen, and we'll be working with the company to hire our own employees to serve and cook. And it's going to be outstanding food. We'll stand for nothing less, and we expect to have lots of feedback from families and students about our food quality.
The second part of that question was about after school and extracurricular activities.
Right, we're still fleshing some of that out, to be honest with you. We will have additional academic tutoring for students that want it. We will have a vibrant music program. We will have chess and yoga as part of our academic offerings, but also in the after-school program, and then a multitude of sports. Some of those sports will be decided by the teachers who are coming to join us based on their specialities and their interests, but also we're going to poll our students, and parents should expect to see something from the admissions office probably in June, asking which special features you would like in our after-school program. And then we will arrange for as many of those as possible, depending on the number of students we have, obviously. But if people have an idea that they want to run by us, we're very much open to that. We see this school in its foundational years with our founding families. We want you to help us grow this school. Maybe not the academic program, but certainly have lots of conversations and input into the remainder of our co-curricular program, our meals, and lots of the things that we do. We want to invite families into our community, and we want you to be part of our community. And that means helping us to make some decisions and giving us feedback on an ongoing basis. And we're happy to receive it. We probably can't please everybody all the time, but certainly our goal is to grow this school with you and with our phenomenal teaching staff, who will also bring their own ideas, their own creativity, their own activities and events to the school.
Well, and is it okay to add that I know you've already hired teachers who will offer robotics, for example, after school, and that all of the teachers hired have different areas of specialization, including things like rock climbing to run the climbing wall, dance, theater, football, things like that. So I think we can assure this young man, who I will invite to email you himself, that we can assure him that there will be a very robust after school and co-curricular and athletic program. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I'd love to hear from him or her.
And connected to this, another parent has asked, in addition to the violin, are there any plans for group music, such as chamber music or choir? And can you expand on other arts, such as drama, dance, visual arts, etc.?
Yes. So as you know, our music program in our kindergarten through grade 3 is centered around the violin. That doesn't mean students can't play other instruments. And we have such a large facility. We expect in our after-school program there will be requests for students to work individually with teachers or their own music teachers who they might work with already in a tutoring format. We will have space for that in our campus if parents desire that. We've already talked to many parents about that. We also have a teacher who will be coming to us, and he's teaches dance, drama, stagecraft, and he plays himself, I think, 7 or 8 different instruments. He is currently planning our 4 through 6 music program, and as well, drama will be embedded in. One of the things that he's done at his past school that I'm anxious to see him develop here is a School of Rock program in the after-school hours. And young people come and they learn new instruments, but they play together in a rock band format. So we're excited to see how that transpires once he arrives. But he also, we have specialist teachers for drama. Every class will be doing drama as part of their academic program. Dance is an option, and actually is part of the academic program as well. Yoga is an option and is also built into our academic program. So, and visual and performing arts are all part of our academic program. So these are both academic and co-curricular. Every student will have exposure to all of the activities I just mentioned, either in the academic setting, or if they want to do more of it, they'll be able to do that in the after-school program. The other thing that all of our students will participate in is public speaking. That's part of our reading, writing, and speaking literacy that we spend a lot of time. We believe it's very important, particularly in the early years. The research suggests that if students are very strong readers by the time they're in grade 3, they're likely to be very strong readers the remainder of their career, and in fact for the remainder of their lives. So we've built those core literacies into our academic program. But of course, we expect that students are going to have interests outside of the academic program as well.
Thank you, Keith. And just to add, Mrs. Fleming, whose portrait is behind you, I did have a cheeky participant ask if that was me. It is not me. Mrs. Fleming was a big patron of the arts, and the arts are a signature part of every TASIS school experience. So you can certainly expect the same from TASIS Portugal. Switching gears a little bit to a more serious academic subject, not that the arts aren't serious, pardon me. We have a question here regarding external assessments and whether or not we will apply external sources of assessments to evaluate student progress.
Yes, I can answer that, and then probably we're about 10 minutes over time, so we'll make this the last question.
Well, we've actually had scheduled it till 8, and they're coming in fast and furious, so I'll ask you to stay with us.
8 at 7:15. So, all right. So back to the question, which was our external examinations. Yes, we will be a Cambridge school, and predominantly that's a framework for our curriculum, and it will be our curriculum in our middle school, but in our elementary school and in our middle school, we will be using the Cambridge assessments. We'll be using it for baseline testing to make sure we know what students know by the time they come into our classes, and then we'll be using it again to measure progress over the course of the year. It's important for us as educators to be able to say we know what our students know when they arrive, and we know how much more they have learned in their time with us. That's a really important metric in what we do as educators. And this will assist us with doing that. So that will be our external assessment in the elementary program.
Thank you. We have, as you can imagine, several questions all related to coronavirus, distance learning, etc. One question here, which I think segues nicely into several others, are how were the other TASIS schools coping with the lockdowns in the various countries in terms of distance learning? And then related, what is your planning or thinking now should the situation, similar situation happen or worse continue into the fall?
Good question, and I'll say two things to start. One, I recognize that as parents, it's only been a few weeks and we're all probably pretty fed up with at-home schooling. The best schools involve the social and emotional well-being of young people and the development of those skills, but as well, working closely with their classroom teachers is very much different than working remotely. And so we recognize that no remote learning system is going to be perfect or even as good as what goes on in the classroom. That's not possible. However, and many of the faculty who may be watching tonight are employing many of these online learning platforms currently with their own schools. The schools in Switzerland and England, it's been more challenging for them in one way, in that they are boarding schools. They have a large percentage of their population, in most cases more than 50%, who reside at the school. And those students had to pack up and return to their home countries without a lot of notice, and not knowing whether they'd be returning in a few weeks, in a few months, or not until the next school year. With that said, they've done a really good job because they had planned for this. They have had experience in delivering online learning, and they've got a resident faculty. Don't forget that the staff who work at these schools are resident there. In many cases, they live on campus. So they have a unique opportunity to collaborate and work together. So that's been going very well for those schools, I understand, by all reports. For us, we will be a day school, so it would be different. However, our faculty, by and large, are very experienced in this area. When I said our faculty are experienced but not too experienced, what I meant by that was our faculty know how to teach very well, and they know what the research supports in terms of good teaching, but they also are very computer savvy and technologically able. And for them to transition to online learning hasn't been as big a challenge as it might be for people who don't have that skill set. All of our faculty have that skill set and are very comfortable in that environment, and much as they would prefer to interface directly with young people every day, we can manage and will manage, should we have to, an online learning platform.
And in fact, that's part of what the new team is already working on, to have that system in place should it be needed. Another question came in. Are there any parent volunteer programs?
We hope so. We sure hope so. We understand that many of you have become quite good teachers in the last few weeks, so we'd like to hire a few of you to start with. No, seriously, I've said this from the beginning. The best schools I've ever been in have been community schools. That is, schools where there's a partnership between parents and the school. And as involved as parents want to be, the better. And if parents can't be for whatever reasons, that's all right too. But we have something called the TASIS Parent Association. It exists at all of the other schools. Parents get very attached to it. Essentially, it's a group of parents who want to volunteer time, energy, expertise. Sometimes they run events, sometimes they support individual classes, sometimes they just meet with the head of school and tell him about all the terrible things that he's doing and how to make the school better. And that's okay too. But we have an area dedicated in what is currently our admissions office and our administrative offices in the school until we move this summer. That area will be handed over to our TASIS Parent Association, and we want to build that organization into a really robust group of parents who are passionate about the school, passionate about their children's education, and want to help us to make this the best school possible. So there will be lots and lots of opportunities for that, and we look forward to it, and I know a number of parents have already expressed a great deal of interest in that area, so thank you.
Thank you, Keith. There's a question. I know we've already talked about construction, but we've had a couple questions wondering about how will it work in phase 2? How will you ensure that it doesn't disrupt students who are in class already?
Yeah, that is a concern, and we've given it lots of thought. We've worked with our contractor on this. We have done already for this part of the construction, but we will essentially isolate and insulate the part of the elementary program that is already in place in September. They have walls that are made of gypsum that have an insulating layer in between them, so they are soundproof, virtually soundproof. And we will make sure that the traffic flow in the construction is only in certain areas. We will utilize holidays, weekends, and evenings as much as possible, but there will undoubtedly be construction going on during the school year. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that students are safe and insulated from all of that construction. Will it be a distraction in some cases? Probably. It will prohibit us from using a few of the outdoor spaces potentially in the short term. But this is the only way we can build this gorgeous school over the next 3 years. If we can only build in the summer, it'll take 4 or 5 times as long. And I know many of you want to be in a gorgeous facility that is special designed to have a fantastic school. So that's our goal, to make sure that we are thoughtful about that process, that we have all of our plans in place. And I give you our word, we will do our very best to make sure that it is unnoticeable what goes on in the other part of the school for our elementary school in the first year.
And I will add that it was almost eerie at points this year with all the demolition going on that we heard so little in the admissions office. Just once or twice we had power blink out for a minute, and that was when visitors were there, and I was in a crazy way happy about it because people could actually, see evidence that there was work taking place.
We also have a plan to with speakers placed all around the school to blast classical music at the young people so they don't even hear the construction.
He's kidding. We did have somebody from outside of Portugal ask about the COVID-19 situation here. And what I'm going to do is refer you to that part of our website where we do provide links to several different sources with updated information about that. So if you're looking for that, we're trying not to be the authority on it because of course we're not, but trying to link you to places where you can get that information. I'm just going to double check and make sure that I haven't ignored any questions. Somebody submitted a suggestion for an activity, which is fantastic, and we will note that. We did have a question about founding families, and the question is, I would like to ask, what are the advantages that founding families have? And can you still be a founding family if you can't enroll your child until 2021 because he won't be quite old enough for 2020?
What I would say to that is you're all going to be founding families, whether you join us this September or whether you join us anytime during the construction, because we're founding an entire school. This year we're founding an elementary program. Next year we're founding a middle school program. And in the years to follow, we're founding our upper school and our IB program. So there's lots of opportunities to be founding families. We do have a founding family discount on our campus enhancement fee for the first year. So that's probably important for people to know. But the other advantage of being founding families, I think, is you help to develop the community and the culture of this school. And we want to have a very constructive, respectful, collegial relationship, a partnership with our parents and our founding families. And we're looking for families who want that sort of relationship with a school. Whether we have a waiting list or whether we have open spaces in all of our classes, it won't matter in terms of our interaction with families that are interested in being part of TASIS Portugal. We want to meet you. We want you to be part of our community where there's opportunity. And we certainly want to share this experience of growing a new school in Portugal with you as founding families and as partners. And whether that is this year or the next, we welcome all of you.
And thank you, Keith. 2 more final questions because we are trying to answer all of our questions here. What grade do students start to learn chess?
Students start to learn chess in kindergarten. And it's part of the academic day. Our academic day is fairly long at all levels because we pack so much into it. But a lot of it is physical activity. A lot of it is things like coding and robotics, and chess is certainly part of that program. We have a teacher who's a specialist in chess and teaching chess, and we'll bring other specialists in throughout the school year to give special tutoring. We've got someone who is interested in helping us. He was an expert in preparing national champions. So the chess is both fun, but it's also an activity that is strategic. And most importantly, it builds memory skills. Being a great chess player involves memorizing moves and foreseeing those moves and then strategizing with that knowledge. So we think it's an important part of what we're doing, but it's also a lot of fun. So young people can start that as early as kindergarten.
Thank you. And we had somebody ask, what about the music program for grades 4, 5, and 6?
And that program is currently just under development because we've hired an exceptional music teacher who's got a strategic plan for that program and is working with us. But we will have exposure to many instruments. We'll have choir, we will have band, and he is coordinating all of that. In fact, at his school currently, he runs a volunteer choir. So these are students who volunteer on their lunch hour because it's not part of their academic program. We will find time within our academic program, but all the same, he is running this at lunchtime, so students must truncate or abbreviate their lunch, run to the volunteer choir. He has 75 students in the volunteer choir at his elementary school. So we're really excited about having him join us, and music is really important to me, it's really important to the school. We're gonna have an exceptional and robust music program.
Thank you. And I forgot one question, which actually came in 30 minutes ago, so I apologize to that person. Will TASIS have any religious education?
Well, if it came in 30 minutes ago, they're probably asleep by now, but I'll answer the question all the same. TASIS is a non-denominational school. We have no religious affiliation. We don't teach religion. In part of our civics and social studies, we might study a variety of world religions, but we don't have religious classes and we have no affiliation.
Thank you, Keith. One final question, again, was about enrollment. I think this person came in after the session had started, so because you talked about that right in the very beginning, would you like to just circle back on that real quick?
We will have one class per grade level, pre-K through 6. So that's 8 classes. We've had a fairly high demand for our early learning centers, so it's possible we will have more than one pre-K and K, but we are planning around one class per grade level, and the class maxes and those will be 22. And we expect most of the classes will be 22 or thereabouts in our first year. So if you do the math on that, somewhere between 150 and 175 students.
Thank you. We so appreciate everyone taking their time tonight to join us. Next Thursday night, Keith will be joined by Erica Harrow, who is Director of Learning and Assessment. She's an incredibly gifted educator. She and her family are moving here from Stevenson School in Pebble Beach, California, where her headmaster said she was probably the best person he's ever hired in his career. So we are so fortunate to have her joining us at TASIS Portugal. And thereafter, Keith really looks forward to the opportunity to introduce you to all of these fabulous teachers whom he has recruited along the way. So stay safe, everyone. Our doors are closed right now, but our virtual doors are always open. I hope you know how to call, text, WhatsApp, or reach us during Zoom, but we're definitely here for you. And right now, my weekends aren't too full either. So if you need some time on the weekend, don't hesitate.
I just want to say thank you, everybody. Thanks for making time for us. We look forward to hearing from you via whichever medium you choose, and perhaps we'll see you again. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.